Hello, team, and welcome to episode 40. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? And this week, I've actually been thinking a bit about the Roman Empire. I was listening to a cool podcast. I'll leave the link down below. And was finishing a book about essentialism, which also reminded me about the olden days. And this month, October 2024, we will be talking about Lindy things that have been important, relevant, impactful for a long time. Who doesn't eat? Who doesn't like some style of music? Might be a different type. Each person likes their own style of music, but everybody likes a type of music. Who doesn't like that experience when you're laughing and somebody says something even funnier and you laugh even harder? All of these universal pleasures and shared enjoyments will be our theme this month. And because it's not all fun and games, our grammar point today is the imperative. So you study, go do your homework, and we will see how we can make sure that the imperative is used in an appropriate, polite way. All right, team, let's go. So first of all, I sent a little warm-up video about the Lindy Effect. I was first introduced to this through Nassim Taleb. He mentions it in both Skin in the Game, somewhere up here, and Anti-Fragile. But it's to summarize, the Lindy Effect says that the longer something non-perishable has existed, the longer it will probably continue to exist. The Bible has been around for 2,000 years. Gold has been valuable since forever. And these things will probably last longer than bestsellers like It Ends With Us nowadays or Bitcoin. At least I would probably bet more on them. So can the Lindy Effect be used to predict the future success of current trends or ideas? Why or why not? Team, I think it can be a good reference, but we need to take it with a pinch of salt. We need to be aware that this is not an exact science. So next up, the imperative mood. It is not a tense. It is not a voice. It is the imperative mood. And in English, my first tip for you, a bonus tip is if you are starting a sentence, an affirmative sentence with a verb, you are using the imperative. So this is a little bit different than in Portuguese, where we can have these invisible subjects. In Portuguese, I can say dormi bem, and I'm saying that I slept well. But if I just say sleep well, it's almost a threat. It's like, you better sleep well, yeah, or else you're going to see. So just be aware that if you start a sentence with an affirmative sentence, because, questions, we start with verbs. If you start an affirmative sentence with a verb, you are using the imperative. You are giving an order. And there are times and places for this, for commands, for instructions. If you're reading a recipe, if you're using Waze, if you're reading the manual for something, they'll probably use the imperative. But we can use the imperative to sound even more polite. Feel free to stop me and ask questions, something super normal to say at the beginning of meetings. And, I don't think anybody will say that it is rude. It's actually almost the opposite. You're putting in extra effort to sound polite. And I have 3 tips for you today. Number 1, politeness. Since the imperative can sound abrupt, some softeners like please go a long way. Get me some water and please get me some water are very different sentences. So be aware of this. Also, it will no longer be the imperative, but I think could go a long way. Could you, I always like to say could you if you're asking for something, may I if it's permission. But one that sometimes can confuse my students is would you mind? When you say would you mind, you're actually saying yes by saying no, I wouldn't mind. So this can get a little confusing. So remember, I don't mind means yes, I will help. But if I say I do mind, that I'm not helping. And because of this confusion, pay attention to the nonverbals. Like, sure, while it might seem like I am agreeing to the yes, I would mind, I'm saying sure, I will help. So it can be a little confusing. So make sure you pay attention to the nonverbals, the tone of voice. They will help you judge the situation. Tip number 2, since the imperative is talking to you in the second person, we don't use a subject. And there are no variations that I'm aware of. The negative will always be don't. No doesn't, no haven't, hasn't, didn't, won't, none of these. It'll always be don't. You know, eat, don't eat. Go, don't go. That's it. And tip number 3, a word that some people, at least here in Brazil, sometimes we use it like a meme or kind of as a joke, is let's. But let's has a really useful purpose in English, which is to include yourself inside the order. If I say get to work, it's like, you know, and you're just going to sit there. But if I say let's get to work, let us get to work, I'm including myself. And it sounds much more acceptable. So I think let is a great softener that can be used to make people more okay with the imperative. Here are 2 activities to practice. How would you give directions from the closest airport to your house? Or how about, you know, from your house to your work? Or imagine you were delegating some tasks. Somebody's going to take care of your cat, you know, clean the litter, give them food twice a day. Or if you're a task at work, João, please fill out this report. You prepare this for our next meeting. So imagine a real work situation for you and how you would delegate these tasks. If you are in school, you can imagine a school project. Next up, team, some back office, cell phones off. This week, I tested out using Google Meet's chat instead of WhatsApp, and I thought it was really successful. My students seem more engaged, so going forward, we will not be using WhatsApp until the end of class. And what distracts you the most during the day? Recently, maybe diapers, holding the baby. But I think WhatsApp, even if we're good at using it appropriately, it can be a little distracting. So team, our talking point is the Lindy Effect. Many people disagree with it. Feel free. You know, why do you disagree with it? Does it apply more to physical objects like gold or ideas like laughter? What are some new technologies that will withstand the test of time? Will cell phones, will AI, will social media be here in 1,000 years? Trends that are making a comeback. Trends you would like to see make a comeback. And if you still didn't get the title of this episode, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? This is a quick link to this meme. What is your favorite ancient civilization? I like the Greeks. I think the Romans culturally appropriated a lot of their stuff. I like the Greeks. I think they're cool. The Sean Combs, the P. Diddy trial. A lot of students mentioned this. So, you know, famous celebrity trials. This has been around for a long time. And your challenge this week is to bring a traditional family recipe to class next week. You'll be able to practice your imperatives, mix this, add this, let it rest for this amount of time, roast for this amount of time. And we will be talking about some comfort food, some old recipes. Me, personally, I will be explaining how to make paçoca. Yes. Paçoca. It's a Brazilian recipe, but meat paçoca, not the peanut one. This is the real farmer protein. And team, that's it. Thank you. Welcome to October, and I hope to see you next week in class.